All right, welcome back. In our last video, what we talked about is just kind of the basics of Tinkercad, talking about what this Tinkercad logo does, kind of discussing all of these different items here on this Tinkercad interface. Today, what we're going to actually be learning about is shapes, sizes, and also text, and how to actually insert that here into your work plane. So what you see here is actually one of those items that we had created in our previous video. So I've got here actually two cubes that I had grouped together. So when I click on this here, you can also see that this ungroup button here is available for me. And that means that there must be items here that must be grouped together. So let's ungroup them so we can see what they are. You can see that they are separated here with this really thick line. And that's why I changed it to yellow in the previous video. So you can kind of see that they were ungrouped from each other. They technically were not part of each other quite yet. But let's actually left click. Let's highlight this whole thing and let's group them together again, so then you can see there's no separation between these. All of this item right here is completely put together. Okay, they are all, this is actually one whole item we have created now. All right, so what we talked about in the beginning of this video is just what we were going to do is we were going to kind of create some shapes, we were going to kind of change the sizes, and we're going to change the text. So we've already kind of discussed how to create shapes. Okay, I'll kind of go over that one more time real quick with you. So you see over here in this Tinkercad area, we've got basic shapes, we've got text, numbers, characters, connectors. Okay, I'm just going to stay here on basic shapes, and let's just say that I would like to create here. Let's actually do a cylinder. Okay, so I'm going to click on this with my left mouse. Okay, left click on here, and I'm going to put this here in on here on my work plane. Okay, so if I left click it, I can drag it, I can drop it basically wherever I would like to. Okay, and you can see all of these different items that kind of pop up once I place this in here. Okay, so now what's kind of cool is that I have the ability to completely change this shape altogether. Okay, if you look here at this top box, this little gray box that I've got here at the top, I can hover over it and it's going to tell me how tall this item actually is. So you see these little arrows that pop up when I hover over it. That is showing me that this is 20 millimeters tall. All right, so now what you actually have the ability to do is actually change the size. So let's just say I want to make this taller. Okay, I want to left click on this and I'm going to drag this just up. Okay, you can see that little box there that's telling me how tall this is actually going to be. Now I'm getting pretty tall here. I am at now 70 millimeters. Okay, now I really don't want it to be that tall, but I do want it to be a little bit taller than it was originally. So let's actually make this, let's go to 40 millimeters. There we go. Okay, I'd actually like this to be 40 millimeters tall. So you can see then, when I hover over this box, it shows me that this is 40 millimeters tall. Now let's just say I want to make this a little bit wider as well. Okay, now I have actually a couple options here that's going to help me make this wider. Okay, it's going to change the length, and it's also going to be changing our width. So let's just hover over here. You see that it is 20 millimeters. Okay, along this front side, and it is also 20 millimeters along this right side. So let's actually create this front side. Let's make this a little bit thicker. Okay, so I'm going to make almost an oval here. So instead of having it at 20, let's actually have it at 35. Okay, so there we go. We've now got this at a length here of 35, and then I've got here this still at 20. So when I right click and I kind of shift around, you can see that this is definitely a little bit longer. Okay, it's got more of that oval shape rather than a cylinder shape. Okay, so that's what I wanted to create. I could kind of change then all of these different aspects. You could kind of tell that it is a little bit difficult sometimes to change the shape, because sometimes it ends up changing the length and the width at the same time. So if I kind of drug this towards me, okay, you can see that my this right hand side is now 62 millimeters, while this front side is actually 37. Okay, so you want to be very, very careful when you're creating this, because you really want it to be something that you really enjoy and you really like it. So make sure that you're very careful in looking at these dimensions that you've got here. All right, so now let's actually change the shape, the size of this specific shape. So now I want them to be like the same height here. So let's remind ourselves what this was. All right, so this was 40. Okay, now let's just make this one 40 as well. So right now it's at 20 millimeters. I want to drag it all the way up, to 40 millimeters. There we go. All right, and I also want to make this just a little bit bigger here. I would like to make this, let's just say I'd like to make it, let's go 50 millimeters. There we go. Alright, so now you can see that I've actually completely changed what these items originally looked like. If I take these items and I kind of just compare and contrast, okay, this box to what an original box would actually look like, you can see the difference there. Okay, I've definitely changed this shape. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this guy. I'm going to delete him real quick. There we go. Okay, so you can see that you can then change the different size of all these shapes. All right, so another thing that I wanted to mention too was kind of talking about text and how you can add text in here. Okay, so we're going to hover over Tinkercad Basic Shapes, and I'm going to left click here. I'm going to go to Text and Numbers. Now what I could do is if I was doing something very simple, maybe I was doing a block that said A, B, C. Okay, I could very easily just take this A and I could place it here, and I could drag this B in here, and I could also drag this C in here. Okay, so that's a suggestion that you could potentially do. Or let's just say that I select all of these and I want to get rid of them. I could also just left click this text, drag this in here, and what I can do is actually change what this text says. So I'm going to go over here to my properties, and it says text here, and I actually just want to say A, B, C. Okay, there we go. So now you can actually see that I've already also just created that, that text that I wanted to here. Alright, so I can change this text basically to whatever I would like to. Okay, maybe we want to say shape. Okay, or we want to say tigers. Okay, for the Harrisburg Tigers. So you could do a whole bunch of different things with this. I can change this from a solid red color. Maybe I want to do maroon. Okay, for maroon and gold. Then let's change this cylinder here too to maroon as well. So we got our school colors going on here. Okay, so you can kind of see then I've created a whole bunch of different shapes. I know what size they are based on looking at their dimensions. Okay, I can also actually do that with my text as well. So let's just say I wanted to make this really, really thick. Okay, I wanted to make this tigers really thick. So I'm going to click here on this middle section, and it tells me that I'm at 10 millimeters. Okay, so I'm going to left click this, and I'll bring it up. Ooh, and look at how tall that is. There we go. Okay, you've got a really, really thick letter system here for tigers. Okay, I'm going to make that a little bit smaller here. Okay, but you can also see then I can drag this and I can make it a little bit wider. Okay, I can make this sign a little bit bigger. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now you can see there how you can change shapes, you can change the size of them, you can also change text. Okay, you can change them to basically anything that you really would like to do. Okay, so that is the end of this specific tutorial about shapes, sizes, and text. Please join us for this next tutorial. We'll be talking about how to create holes in items.